So the question for Chapter 8, which is this one right here, explain how the market revolution transformed America and heightened tensions. So if you go to the Chapter 8, you can see that you have a couple of pictures. One showing the transportation revolution, the idea of kind of an early railroad, and people being able to travel, move around a lot more, right? And this kind of idea of the power of transportation. You also have an anti Catholic cartoon, concerns about Catholic immigration. And then if you start to look at these documents, so in this first document with James Madison, he's basically asking Congress to support internal improvements largely out of a national security interest, right? That we need to be able to have roads and transportation for security. We need to be able to have a strong factory system to make our own stuff, that we need to not be dependent on other countries. So he makes this argument about internal improvements. But within that document, he makes the comment that, hey, I know this might look like I'm playing favorites, like that we're favoring manufacturing, but then he continues on. He says, that's not really true. This is in the best interest of the country. This is promoting the general welfare, and kind of highlights that conflict that we've talked about, which is that the agricultural elements are going to be very, very suspicious of manufacturing and of tariffs and of internal improvements, and this kind of inherent conflict that exists between those two groups. Then you see that the traveler describing life along the Erie Canal describes the massive growth of that particular region of because of the canal system, and how you have this opportunity. But inherent within that, you've got lots of immigrants coming in, lots of changes happening. And of course, if you put that in context with the anti-immigrant cartoon, you can see how tensions are there, as well as tensions that are going to exist with a bunch of people living in a growing city and how it's crowded and that kind of thing. The blacksmith contract, the tensions between apprentices and their and the people that are teaching them, the frustrations that an apprentice might have, especially in a market economy where there's opportunities to be had elsewhere. The country's growing. You can pack up and move places. You can, if you don't like the way one guy is treating you, you can go find another apprentice contract. You could go get a factory job. So there's going to be an inherent conflict within that. Of course, Harriet Robinson, we read that in class. We talked about women workers fighting for better pay, better conditions. And Alexis de Tocqueville talks about the equality of the sexes, or how he perceives, gender roles as playing out in the United States. Now, we know, however, that that women were not necessarily, put on a pedestal. He makes it sound as though women had all these freedoms and rights, and in reality, women didn't. Right? You can look at Harriet Robinson and kind of see how she's describing that. And kind of understand this essential tension that's existing with women taking the factory jobs, competing with men for jobs, and based on some of the other articles that we've read in the past, when we've talked about women, that it wasn't quite as idealistic as de Tocqueville makes it sound. So you have tensions between men and women, between workers and factory owners, between apprentices and their masters, with urbanization and growing cities and immigrant groups, and then questions about improvement, about agricultural systems, not wanting internal improvements, not wanting that kind of environment versus, or those kind of tariffs, as opposed to factory systems needing those. So hopefully, if you kind of read through those documents, that you'll kind of see how they reflect these tensions of the market economy. So that's where your focus needs to be, is identifying tensions within the documents and what they have to say about the historical context.